estamos?
Marhaba.
Hola. Hello.
I'm inspired that there's so many people working to accomplish the same goal of creating a connected future. By having students lead clubs on campus directly supported by Google developers, that's the best way to reach out to students.
It's really inspirational always to hear about members of the community who echo your values and echo your beliefs.
I've been listening more than I've been speaking, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because I'm just getting all these ideas.
Google, it needs to reach a wider audience and be more relatable as a company, and I think Google is one of the brands that is very good at doing that.
Hey everyone, this is Carlos De Galato. I'm the DSC lead at Northeastern Illinois University, and thank you for joining us. This is the Flutter Series workshop. We're going to be hosting a 5-episode workshop to introduce some people how to use Flutter and how to create an app using AutoRoute, using the newest function for routing in Flutter. It's going to make your routing a whole lot easier in your app. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce a couple members of our team, Danny and Mohammed, if you'd like to say hi to the people.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mohammed Bungash, a junior in the computer science program at Northeastern Illinois University, also a member of the student Google Developer Club, and will be helping Carlos moderating this Flutter series. I'll be answering any of your light questions and making sure the session remains as a productive space. I'll also be helping on redirecting you to our Discord server, where currently we have mentors available to answer your bigger questions. My interests also lie in Android development, but I am also new to Flutter, so this will be a new learning experience for me as well. We're glad for everyone who could make it today, and big thanks for those helping us make this series possible. And I want to hand it off to Daniel.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to be here on a Saturday with y'all, wherever you may be in the world. Howdy from Austin. Let us know in the chat where you may be joining us from today. We'd love to know where you are in the world. So one of the things that I do here is I'm the Developer Student Club Community Manager for the United States. So it's my job to work with students like Carlos and Muhammad and help provide them with resources to in turn teach y'all amazing skills with Google technologies. This can include, introductions to Flutter, like we'll be hosting today, as well as Firebase, TensorFlow, Google Cloud Platform, Android, and more. So one of the things you should do here is, number one, like and subscribe to our channel, join our Discord, and remember, this is going to be an opportunity for you to connect with student developers from across the US and more. And we would love to help facilitate, new learnings as you go through your university and job search upon leaving, university. But with that, we have a ton to cover today, including some upcoming agenda, which will be happening over the next couple weeks in the month of March for this Flutter series. So Mohammed and I are going to be stepping into the backstage. Remember, ask your questions in the chat. We're just a couple clicks away. But with that, Carlos, go ahead and take it over.
Great. Thank you, Danny. Great introduction. And definitely let me add to that. Totally feel free to leave questions in the chat for your lighter questions. Any heavier questions, please, direct them towards our Discord. But definitely stay involved. We'd like to see people, asking questions and just remaining involved throughout the whole series. But yeah, and also I want to talk too about some of the things that Danny may have mentioned. Aside from Flutter being just an all-around great platform to use, I really do believe as well that you can use it in any career path that you decide to go to, because it seems that every industry has a need for the use of an app. I mean, we're moving into that generation where they're everywhere. Apps are unavoidable. So yeah, it's just one important tool that you might be able to take into your future career, whatever career it may be. And you might start here. It might pique your interest enough to just want to learn a little bit more about it. So you don't necessarily have to be a computer science engineer in order to move forward with Flutter development. This could just be just a quick little intro to get you started. And we all got to start somewhere. So basically, yeah, I also want to say that I'm a very fond user of Flutter. I am very passionate about it. I use it. I'm tending to gravitate more towards it in development, just because there's tons of reasons why, and we're going to go over some of them here in a second. But yeah, I just wanted to just add to that Flutter is a great tool to use. So thank you all for joining us, and hopefully this workshop teaches you something new about it. So as we proceed, we're going to start by going over a quick little schedule, rundown of what we have scheduled for everyone in this series. As you can see, episode 1 is taking place today. I mean, we're here right now, 3 p.m. We just put it on the schedule just to remind you in case you needed to refer back. And it's going to happen at 3 p.m. Central Time. They're all going to be listed at Central Time. So wherever you are in the world, try to keep note of that it's going to take place in Central Time. This is happening based in Chicago, so that's the reason for that. That's why we're doing it at 3. And yeah, we're going to try to remain consistent. We're going to try to keep it at 3 p.m. Central Time every Saturday. So for the whole month of March, it's just March, trying to contain in 1 month, but we're going to try to keep it on Saturday at 3 p.m. Central Time every Saturday for the month of March, aside from one exception. That's episode 5. Episode 5 is actually going to be a back-to-back with episode 4. So towards the end of the month, at the end of March, on March 27th and March 28th, they're going to be back-to-back episodes. So just keep in mind that is the only difference. Other than that, just keep in mind that it's Saturday at 3 p.m. If you want to learn more, this is where you need to be. So yeah, so we're just going to basically go quickly into this. Episode 1 is going to strictly be covering our fonts of our app, the colors as well as Pubspec configuration. Now you're probably wondering what Pubspec is. Maybe if you're not familiar with it, we're going to go over that in a second, but it's just simply configuring your app. As well as we're going to be going over our routing code generator. So when we create navigation for our app using AutoRoute, it's going to come with a built-in code generator that we're going to do minimal coding, and it's going to create tons of code for us automatically that we can use, which is a great feature. It makes routing so much easier in your app, which is why we decided to show you all how to use it here. So these are just going to be basic setting up our app. These first 2 episodes are just going to be setting up our app, getting things ready to go as far as fonts and colors so we can use in the future episodes, and we're not running into errors as we go. And also to give us one place to configure these things, as well as so that we don't run into errors along the way. And what was I going to say? I'm sorry, let me, okay, so that we could unify our code in one place, our configuration in one place, so that if you need to change the fonts or you need to change the colors on a specific page in particular, you don't change it in multiple places, you change it in one place, as such as the fonts or the colors, and then it'll change all throughout your app. So that's what we're doing here. We're trying to centralize your configuration so that as you proceed, it'll be much easier. So those first 2 episodes are going to be covering that. Episode 2, like I said, the following Saturday, which is next week, it's going to be at 3 p.m. And yeah, it's going to be covering our main method and the routing function, as well as the theme and the text theme. So the episode 1 is going to be really setting it up and bringing in our dependencies into the series, but episode 2 is going to be kind of where we start implementing some of those routing functions that we brought in, as well as we're going to start applying some of those colors to our themes and the fonts to our text themes. So yes, that's what episode 2 is going to be. Episode 3, the following Saturday, that's going to be at 3 p.m. And that's going to be covering strictly the login page. We're going to be done with the configuration pretty much up until that point. Episode 3 is where we're going to really start to get our hands a little dirty, as they say. So we're gonna go into the login page and start to build out our UI for that. And we're going to show an example here in a second of the next coming slides. So that's what episode 3 has in store. And like I said, that's going to be the 3rd Saturday of March. Episode 4 will be the 4th Saturday of March, 3 p.m. Home page and menu page and settings page are going to be the things that we're going to be covering there. And those are just going to strictly or simply just introduce you to a basic app structure for a page. That's going to have your app bar at the top, and we're going to also go into the layout of the app bar, as well as put a center widget just in the body, just to show you. Like I said, you're going to see a visual example here in a second, so just bear with me. So we'll just move forward onto episode 5. Episode 5 is, like I said, the back-to-back with episode 4, remind you, so that it's going to be the Saturday, Sunday. And episode 5 is going to be covering toast notifications. And toast notifications are simply those little notifications that pop up on the bottom of your screen, and they're called toasts. I just recently realized why they're called toasts earlier today. I spoke myself into the answer, but at first I was saying, I don't know why they're called toasts. Maybe it's because they pop up like a toast in a toaster, and I think that's why they're called toast. So yeah, we're going to cover toast notifications, but one thing I wanted to add is in Android development, for instance, toasts are kind of implemented in Android Studio for Android development, but in Flutter, they're not really naturally given to us as a feature to use. So we're going to actually bring that dependency, Flutter Toast is actually what it's called. We're going to bring that dependency in our app, and that's going to be another example of importing our packages or whatnot. And we're going to use that to create our toast notification in our app, and it's going to be another little cool feature that you can have and use. We're also going to be covering the app icon in episode 5, so that you can apply your own custom icon, so that you can differentiate yourself in the App Store, and it doesn't have the default Flutter app that you're provided with when you open a new Flutter project. We're going to use a basic app icon, just a default one, but you can feel free to use whatever logo that you want. I suggest you use the files that we provide here in the series, and you don't have to really worry about downloading the files just yet. We're not going to take get into that too much until the later episodes, but just know that it might be helpful if you use the files that we provide, because they're going to be the same name, syntax, and you might not, you won't get confused. Once you build out the app completely after episode 5, you can feel free to do whatever, customizations you want, because it'll be a functioning app, and then you'll be able to much easier see where you're going wrong in your process. So yeah, so that's going to be our just a rundown of our first 5 episodes. I kind of want to go into a little bit more detail, maybe. Why you should use Flutter. This is actually an important slide. I feel like it's important because everybody here is kind of interested in Flutter naturally. You guys are here because you want to know a little bit more about it, and I kind of want to talk through and explain to you why I think this is a good platform to use, framework to use. The community is one of the most important reasons to use Flutter, I feel like, simply because it's such a supportive community. And not only the Flutter community, but also the Dart community, so supportive. Everybody's there really to genuinely help each other. I learned through tutorials and workshops, so I feel like I'm just paying it forward by helping the community. And just giving another tool to use. Also, on top of that, I would also like to request anybody that wants to help in the community. Maybe you want to answer some questions. You're a little bit experienced in Flutter, and you might want to answer some questions for some of our new beginners that have some questions in the chat or on the Discord. Feel free to join us. There's some mentors already in the Discord. Definitely join them and introduce yourself. And I hope to see you there. One of the other reasons why I think you should use Flutter, though, is the cross-platform development. Though the cross-platform development feature it's really efficient. I mean, you only have to code once in Flutter using Dart, and then it gets applied to other different platforms, iOS, Android, as well as the web. And you only have to do it in one place, so it's nice. You don't have to build out 3 different apps. You just build out one, and it just gets scattered throughout. So we're just going to keep it moving here a little bit quickly. We don't want to bore you all with these slides. We want to get right into the coding. But let's first just talk a little bit more about the Dart language. Like I said, the Dart language is what we use to build Flutter. It's like Java based, C syntax. So if you know Java, you'll be able to pick it up pretty easily. Otherwise, it's still not too challenging to pick up. But it's a really fast, a really flexible language. And it was brought in 2011 by Google as well. Flutter is also a Google development, but just wanted to add that in there. But yeah, Dart was developed in 2011, I believe, implemented into Flutter, and has been home ever since. So the hot reload is another important feature that we want to give to you why we think Flutter is a really good development tool. Within native Android development, you traditionally would have to rebuild the app every single time you make a change to it. And hot reload actually changes that. It makes it so that you can see in real time what your changes are. So when you change a color or a specific word or something, you can press hot reload or save, and it'll automatically, you can see your changes rather than having to completely rebuild the app every single time you need to make a change, which makes development a whole lot smoother and easier. And lastly, Flutter 2 was just recently released 3 days ago, actually. So I kind of wanted to add that in there as a reason why you should use Flutter, simply because it highlights the fact that we're still in the infancy of Flutter. It's just releasing version 2 right now, but it doesn't mean that it's a baby. It means that it's growing. Actually, it means it's a growing community, and believe me, a lot of people are adopting Flutter as their development tool. So I would suggest looking into more Flutter if you really like our workshops. What we're going to be covering is going to be using the original version 1 of Flutter. So work through the workshop, and then if you really do like it, then download the Flutter 2 install for sure. But it's not going to be much different. They don't change anything. They just import some new features. But I just thought that we could mention this. It'd be a cool reason why I think you should continue to use Flutter, because it's just in the beginning. The next slide we kind of want to go over is some assumptions. Now, this is important. If you're watching now and you are ready to get going, you're eager to start coding, eager to start creating apps. Yeah, this is kind of important. We want to make sure that you have Android Studio already installed, and you want to have your Flutter SDK installed. If you don't have these things installed, I would definitely recommend that you pause the video now and go install these things. We're going to provide some documents with the links so where you can download these. And yeah, these are just things that, like I said, you can't really code or program and create a Flutter app without these basic things. So you need to have Android Studio and Flutter SDK installed. You also need virtualization enabled for your emulator. An emulator is just a digital version of a cell phone on your computer, so you can test with, so you can see what you're creating. But if you don't want to use an emulator, you can use a physical device. I suggest you look into unlocking developer options on your Android device if you have one, a spare one, or even the one you use. But definitely use a physical device if you can't get your emulator running. But either way, if you do want to use an emulator, what we're trying to say is you need to have virtualization enabled. And if it's not naturally enabled in your computer, you can just do a quick Google search and see how to enable that on your computer to have this emulator running. And the last thing we want to kind of go over is assume that you're somewhat familiar with programming. It would help if you know a little bit about programming. So because a lot of the terms are, basic programming terms like objects, or, we're not going to reuse the objects, but I'm just saying, for instance, some of these things might, you're going to hear them often, and it might help if you're familiar with what they are so that you can kind of know where to go. But you don't have to be a professional programmer or anything like that. I'm just saying that it helps to be a little bit familiar with programming. But if not, this is a perfect place to start. And yeah, some of the key terms we laid out here are for our series. We're going to be using these quite often is imports, packages, widgets, attributes. And let me go over quickly. Just imports are simply basically just packages to keep, or import is how you bring a package into your app. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's going to be used quite often, as we're going to be importing other packages so we can use other features of Flutter. Aside from that, packages, I just explained, is going to be the containing feature of Flutter. It's going to be how we keep all our files in one place, and as well as importing packages from other places, external places that increase our function of our Flutter apps, like Flutter Toast and AutoRoute. Widgets are basically anything in Flutter like that's clickable, any text, anything. Developers made it so that this is what we're using to develop in Flutter are widgets. They're just containers, widgets sitting within widgets, create the widget tree. So you're going to hear a lot about widgets, and that's just simply just something that is a view, basically. And attributes are how we alter our widgets. You go in there and you make subtle changes to the properties or whatnot. And then the routing is going to be how we route from page to page. And in Flutter, I'm just going to say right here, as you can see at the bottom, you see routes. That's what we call pages in Flutter, are routes, actually, not necessarily pages, but routes. So in order to get from one route to the other, we use routing to do that. And the pubspec finally is another key term. Like I said, it's a configuration file. Our pubspec.yaml file is going to be where our app is completely configured, like at the root level. So if we want to make any major changes or like bring in dependencies, like change the name of the app and stuff, we would be doing that in our pubspec file. And it's similar to an Android manifest file if you're familiar with Android development. But yeah, that's where we're going to be making our real big configurations too. So let's just go through quickly episode 1. We're just going to be covering the fonts, the colors, the configuration, like I said, and the the code generator for our routing. We're going to create a simple code, just some simple code, and then automatically create the rest of the code by using AutoRoute feature. Episode 2 is going to be covering our main method. I think we already went through these actually, so we could just go quickly go through these. Main method, it's going to cover the routing of the app and the theme, hence the colors and the text theme, so it's your fonts or whatnot. Episode 3, this is a visual of episode 3. This is what we're going to be building out. It's just going to be a simple login page, and it's just going to have our logo, a couple text fields, just a UI for it. If you want to really go dig deep into our authentication of your app, then I would suggest you look into Firebase for authentication, or just you can actually build this out even deeper to accept email and password login. Episode 4 is going to cover our home page, menu page, and our settings page of our app. These are just, like I said, just going to be covering the app bar towards the top, a simple app bar structure, and then the route structure itself, which is going to be a scaffold. And then finally, episode 5, like I said, there's a visual of the toast notification right there at the bottom. That's what's going to pop up when we have our toast notification. And then on the right-hand side, just to give an example of the custom app icon that we want to build, so that when your app sits in the drawer, it's distinguishable from the other Flutter apps that are in there, or aside from the default Flutter icon that you're given. So yeah, I mean, that's it. Like I said, I don't want to keep boring anybody too much longer than they already are. We're going to bring Danny back up real quick while I share my screen and get ready to start the workshop.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for that crash course, Carlos, as to what to expect over the next 5 episodes. I do want to remind y'all, remember, we are going to be doing episodes 4 and 5 on the same weekend. So that's where we'll have, back-to-back episodes on Saturday and Sunday, both being hosted at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Not to worry, we will have a video playlist created for y'all to be able to bookmark. So if you do miss it, you can always come by and view it later. But we would love for you to join us. One of the other things I want to mention here is we do have a brief question, which I would love to get answered by Carlos before we get started. So we have a question here which says, can I use Xcode when building my application for Flutter?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mosin, for asking that question, actually. Unfortunately, we're not going to be using Xcode. We're going to be using Android Studio. I'm not going to tell you can't use Xcode. If you're familiar enough to use Xcode and still run along with us and keep up, I totally suggest that if you're more familiar with that. Unfortunately, you might run into some differences as far as the IDE goes. So yeah, if this workshop, we're going to be using Android Studio. So if I would suggest you use Android Studio if you want to follow along, exactly what we're doing. But I mean, if you really want to use Xcode and you think that you can, implement the things in Xcode in the same way as Android Studio, which I'm pretty sure you can, totally go for it. But yeah, anybody out there listening, like I said, this is we're going to be primarily using Android Studio for our development.
Yeah, and if I could, I just want to highlight another suggestion by Dalton in the chat. Really good suggestion here. If you're using Android Studio, make sure you include the Flutter and Dart plugins, right? If you don't have that, you're going to run into some issues, right? So make sure you have those plugins downloaded and connected to Android Studio. But with that, Carlos, I think that comes to the end of the questions we've had thus far. Remember, one of the best parts about these live streams is you can ask your questions at any point in the YouTube chat. We'll stop and address them before moving on. But in the interest of time, Carlos, go ahead and take it away. I'm really excited to, follow along myself. So hopefully everyone in the audience is ready and prepared as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Danny. And Dalton, thank you for bringing that to light. Just to add to that, we actually have some documents, Google Drive documents that we want to share with you all. And in one of those documents, it actually covers, or it has some screenshots for the Flutter and the Dart plugins, so that if you're a little bit lost, you can visually see how you add those plugins. We added the screenshots for that. You just go to your settings, click on plugins, and then you just search, the Flutter and the Dart, and then you'll see, like I said, the visual and the walk. I believe it's called the walkthrough document that we have. But yeah, totally. Thank you, Dalton, for adding that. Definitely need to have that set up if you want to move forward right now. So yeah, so let's get started here. First, we're going to start off. By opening our Android Studio, and I have it down here on my taskbar. You might have to open up your Start menu, but yeah, I tend to keep it down here locked in the taskbar just so I can have easy access to it when I want to create something. So we're going to open up Android Studio. I'll let it open up here. And like I said, don't forget to stay involved in the chat. I definitely let us know where you're coming from right now, where you're hailing from. We really like to know what parts of the world we're reaching to. So in the chat, if you can, just leave where you're at, and we would really appreciate that. That totally helps us kind of get an understanding of what
Hey, Carlos.
how far we're reaching. Yes.
So we actually did have one question before you jump in. So
Yep.
what is AutoRoute? You mentioned it briefly, and it is in the description. Would you mind just expanding upon that just briefly before we jump in with Android Studio?
Absolutely, absolutely. And Paranje, I think that I pronounced it right. Thank you for asking that. I'm sorry if I went over it a little bit quickly, but I'll expand on it right now. AutoRoute is simply an external package that you would use. It's designed for Flutter use, but it's to create. It's to simplify navigating through your app. Prior to finding AutoRoute, I actually used to use a different way to route for routing in my app. And it can get quite clumsy, actually. You create a lot of boilerplate code, which is code that repetitive code that it's in a bunch of different places, and it's actually just the same code. But AutoRoute kind of takes that away from that. It has its own code generator to create all of those methods and functions for routing, which makes it a whole lot easier for you. So you don't have to worry about the navigation part of your app. You do have to worry about it, but it's not as intense as having to just completely worry about building your navigating methods every single time in each file. AutoRoute makes it so much easier to do that. So like I said, you would just be simply coding a little bit that we would need to just specify the routes, do the AutoRoute generator, and it's going to generate a whole bunch of code for us that we can use in our app. So it's just another feature, and two of the external packages that we're going to be using is one AutoRoute and the other one is Flutter Toast. Like I said, the Toast notifications that are going to pop up, that isn't naturally in Flutter, so we're going to have to import that package as well as importing the AutoRoute package. So like I said, just to go over that again, AutoRoute, great feature to use. This is one of the reasons why I really decided to make this series, to be honest with you, is simply just to introduce this feature. This is a very important feature, I feel like, and that's why it's on the main flyer, using AutoRoute. And I think anybody that uses it understands that it really does simplify routing, makes navigation a whole lot easier. But thank you for that question, for clarifying, for sure. If there's not any other questions that we want to deal with, Danny, in the chat, then we can get started. Okay, I'll take.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead and continue on.
Cool. Okay, cool. All right, let's get started. We're gonna first start by opening up our Android Studio. Like I said, we're gonna bring it up here, and it should take you to your first little dashboard. And this is the first telltale sign to make sure you're on the right path. If you can see right here, it says Create New Flutter Project. That signifies that you've installed your Flutter SDK properly, you've added the plugins properly. It's Android Studio is recognizing that you have Flutter installed. If you don't see Create a New Flutter Project and you can only see Create New Project, that's gonna have a lot to do with installing your SDK properly. So Create New Project is simply for an Android project, but so we're gonna be going to Create New Flutter Project to create a new Flutter project, and I'm clicking it and don't know what's going on here. Uh-oh. Looks like we have a freeze here. Let me close it out. Oh, nope, it looks like we're good. Yep, looks we're all good still. Okay, so create a new Flutter project, and it's going to take you to this window right here. So what we're going to do is specify a Flutter application. We want to create a whole application here. These are just different options if you want to create smaller things aside from an application. We're going to do the application. Click next to get going. And this is the project name. So we're going to call this Flutter app, whatever we want to call it. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I think for today or for this series, we're going to call it Flutter Series app. And as you can see, the convention should remain the same, the spelling convention. You should have lowercase letters in the beginning. You shouldn't have any uppercase letters. And any spaces, you should have underscores. You should also not start the project with a number. If you start it with a number, it's going to give you an error like that. So we want to make sure we stick with these conventions with Flutter, with these naming conventions. Another thing we want to point out is make sure your SDK path is pointed to where you downloaded your Flutter SDK. Make sure that that's pretty important. Moving forward, and it makes it pretty easy to install the SDK here, I guess, if you don't really have it, if it's not recognizing it. So another thing we want to talk about right here on this page is the project location. The project location is simply where your project is going to be exported to once it's done. I think we all kind of get that if you've made it this far. So if that's not a proper place you want it to go, then you just click right here and you point it to another directory folder where you want your project files to go. The description is self-explanatory. It's just a simple description of our app. We're going to put Flutter Series Workshop App. Cool. That's cool. That's a good description, I think. And everything is all set up here, ready to go. So we're going to click next. And right here, this actually is our package name. Okay, so when we create apps, we wanna have packages to kind of distinguish one project from another. If we don't have that, then we tend to get confused with, say, a home page, like a home.dart file in one project and a home.dart file in another project. Cause a lot of confusion. So we have to separate them with packages. It's like an encapsulating thing. So as you can see here, I use my first last name for the package name. It's usually going to start with com, or I would suggest starting it with com dot, like that. And then after that, you could put whatever, honestly. You could put your first last name, you could put your first name, you could put a name of a business that you're running. That's kind of up to you to specify your package name. And then right here is where we're going to have the app. It should automatically come in automatically once you name your app right here. If not, then you kind of want to specify that. And we're going to keep these the same, keep those checked. And we're just going to click finish to get this started. All right, creating a Flutter app. We're going to wait, let that load. And like I said, if you don't have any of this set up, don't feel bad. You just pause the video now, and you have plenty of time to get everything downloaded today, get everything set up, search the resources online to get it all set up properly. If not, definitely reach out in the Discord and we'll love to help you out. And aside from that, you also have a whole another week until the next series episode. So that gives you a whole week to do the setup, as well as rewatch this video that you may have missed and get caught back up, so come next week, come episode 2, you'll be ready to go for the rest of the series. It's just a minor hiccup. These things happen, believe me. So configuration is very important. You got to remember that. So we're gonna go into this app, and okay, so right here it's gonna show us the default Flutter app that's provided when we open a brand new project. As you can see here, it provides us with a bunch of default code. This to the left over here is going to be our directories. This is your main project directory, and we also want to click right here to make sure it's in main project directory. Sometimes it throws you automatically into the Android directory or something, but we want to make sure we're on the top level. Okay, so we're going to expand that folder as well, because these are going to be the folders that we're going to be used. We also have screenshots as well in the walkthrough that will give you a full example of like our directories. Once they're all set up, you might see some things that you might not see it yet exactly right now, but that's just the final version. So yeah, so you can use that for reference if you want to know where your files are supposed to go, where your directories are supposed to go. Yeah, this is where you're gonna see it, and in the walkthrough is where you're gonna see an example. So going back to our main.dart file, this is just some of the stuff that's provided to us naturally. But today, like I said, we're not going to be doing too much as far as heavy coding. We're going to do some introductory stuff like setting up our colors and setting up our stuff so we can, get started. And when we get running, we won't have to stop. So first, we're going to actually close this main.dart file because we don't need that in this episode. The first thing that we really want to do is we want to go and get our fonts set up. So first thing, let's close this out first, or we'll minimize that, should I say. I'm going to open up a new Chrome tab. And then in here, where we're going to go, first place we're going to go is fonts.google.com. And this is where we're going to be able to find some fonts that you can use for your app. This is a great source to use, great resource to use. So it's going to take you straight here to the font, Google Fonts. The font that we're going to be using for our example app is going to be the Ubuntu font. So in our search bar, we're going to type in Ubuntu. We're going to search that. And right here, we have our Ubuntu. This is the one that we're going to use. This one is Ubuntu Condensed, Ubuntu Mono. We're going to use strictly Ubuntu. Click that, and then it goes to show you the different types of fonts in the Ubuntu package, the font family package. So what we're going to do, though, we're actually not going to use a specific one. We're going to just download the whole family. Okay, we're going to do that because you're probably going to be using that quite often. And then we're going to save that in Flutter Series files. Let me actually just delete these. We'll just keep that. So we're gonna save it in here. We're gonna save a zipped version in here. You're gonna have a zip version. We're gonna unzip it, and it says the version already exists in here. So we're just gonna replace it just for example purposes. And then, oops, yep, that actually, okay, we'll just do it like this. Go like this and show in folder. Oh, that didn't work. So let's go ahead and open up another folder. 1 second. Oh, there it goes. All right, let's go down to our files again where we saved it. Wherever it is you decided to save it, whether it be in your downloads folder or a specific folder in particular, that's where you save it. Make sure you remember that. And then we're going to go to our zip folder where we saved it at, and we're going to expand them. So let's right click, let's extract all. We're going to extract them right here. All right, so we have our folder. This is our unzipped folder. Let's go back here. You can see it right here. It doesn't have the little zip thing on it. So we're gonna need the whole folder. So what we want to do is we're gonna right click our Ubuntu folder, our unzipped folder, and we want to copy that. What we want to do now is we want to go back into our app, and first we're going to create a directory to store that in. So we're going to go onto the top level project folder. We're going to right click that. Okay, and then we're going to create a new directory, and that's going to hold our fonts. So we're going to call it fonts. Press enter, and then it created this directory right here in the, like I said, in your main project folder. The lib is where a lot of your work is going to be at as well. That's going to be important, but for now we're going to be putting our assets and our fonts in our highest level folder. So then, like I said, create the directory in there called fonts. And then in fonts, we're going to right click and we're just going to paste because we had already copied from the our folder window. And we're going to click refactor. It's going to bring in those fonts right there. And it starts off, it opens up with a README, just simply the license. You can close that. And these are our fonts right here inside the Ubuntu folder, inside the fonts folder. For this example, for this series, we're going to be using the Ubuntu regular. So that's going to be the one we're going to use particularly. If you want to use any of these other ones, you can definitely modify it when you want. I just wanted to show you how to bring in an entire font family so that you can kind of utilize at that point whatever one you wanted to use. But in this one, we're going to use Ubuntu regular. And then let's see.
Carlos,
Yes.
Speaking of fonts, we do have a question in the chat. So from Coach, they ask, why download Google Font packages specifically for this Flutter application?
I mean, in all honesty, I'm going to give you the honest answer. That's how I learned how to do it. Using Google resources. It's one of the best places to go to. I feel like it's seamless with Flutter. You get your TTF files. If you use other font files from other places, I don't necessarily know if they'd be TTF files or if anything outside of TTF files might even be compatible in here. So for this, I would suggest use that. But if you have other font packages that you want to use and they end in .ttf, I'm pretty sure that they would work as well. The only thing is you just need to make sure in our pubspec file that you point them to the right place. So you can probably put them in the fonts folder, name them your whatever folder you want, the font family or the font type. And then as you'll see in our Pubspec configuration, we're going to point to that. So I would suggest using Google Fonts. It's a really cool resource to use, but if not, there's other ways to do things, definitely.
No, that definitely helps, Carlos. And I just want to encourage anyone who's following along. Remember, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat as we go, and we will bring them up on the main stage to make sure you get your questions answered. So with that, go ahead and continue, Carlos.
Great. Thank you for the questions. I appreciate the interaction. Definitely these, if you feel like you need to ask a question because you might not be clear, I can almost guarantee that somebody else out there has the same question and they just don't want to ask it, or they have yet to ask it. So this is very important that, you kind of interact with us so we can kind of, help everybody out. Like I said, this is a community effort. So yeah, as we proceed, we're gonna go into our colors actually. The fonts, I think we're all taken care of. Yeah, we have our fonts folder, we have them imported, we have them downloaded, we brought them in our project. Let's move forward into the colors section actually. So first thing we want to do with our colors is we actually want to create our Dart file, our colors Dart file. And like I said, Dart is a language. Don't, if it's going to be Flutter or colors.dart. Everything is going to end in .dart, home.dart. They're all going to be Dart files. So we're going to create a colors Dart file. But in order for us to do that, let's actually create a folder to put our colors inside of so that we can stay organized. So in our lib folder right here, we're going to expand our lib folder. Well, you don't have to expand it, but we'll expand it. And then we're going to right click. We're going to create a new package. And we're going to call this package, you guessed it, colors. And so we're going to keep any, see, the thing is with this example, we're going to create, let me move a little bit forward so I can explain a little bit more. So we're going to create right click our colors package, create a new Dart file, and we're going to call this one colors. Remember the language syntax. We're going to underscore for a space, and we're going to do colors1. I'm calling this colors1 because you never know, you might want to use a completely different set of colors in your app after you get done, and you can call that colors2, colors3, a whole different combination of colors. And then simply all you would need to do is just refer to the file that you make. So you can have a bunch of different color files, and you can kind of play with what really works and what looks good, and you don't have to delete a colors file. If you want to make a new one, you can kind of just create them and keep them all organized in this colors folder so that you can refer to them. But we're just going to just start with one, just a simple one, colors1.dart. So in this colors file, the first thing that we want to do is import. And this import statement is actually going to be common. Oh, we're going to use single quote marks. And we're going to import package, colon, and then we're going to do Flutter. Oops. We're going to do Flutter / material.dart. Okay, this import is to import material design features in Flutter, basically. And this is a good one we're going to use. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with what material design is, but it's actually a concept that was created to kind of unify our app building experience, to make sure our app icons look somewhat similar, and it's kind of it looks very clean and very efficient. So that's what material design is, and Flutter implements a lot of material design. We're going to be importing this material.dart import to be able to use a lot of our material icons and stuff. So that import is important. We're going to come back actually and copy that import, and we're going to be pasting that in other places of the app as well. Because I also want to highlight copy and paste. Copy and paste is an important feature of programming. It's going to make your programming experience a lot easier and a lot more seamless. Rather than having to type everything out, utilize the features that you got, the shortcuts that you got. Definitely would recommend learning how to write it first, though. Try not to use it easily, or the easy feature first. Try to write it out until you understand what you're really writing, and then totally go for it. Use copy and paste all you want. So first, let me make sure we don't have any questions, any outstanding questions that maybe we might want to get to in the chat. Yeah. Looks good so far. Okay, so first thing we're going to do in our colors app is we're going to define some colors. And to define the colors, we're going to use a constant. Constant. We're going to define, we're going to define it as a constant variable, and it's going to be called, we're going to call this one, lowercase first, app black, okay? And then app black is we're going to set that to colors dot black. That's pretty simple, huh? And then semicolon after. Okay, and you can see the little square right here. It popped up, let you know you did it right. So I just want to highlight this way you can actually refer to colors. You can just simply call on colors dot and then name the color, and then that's one way to bring in a color. They're pretty basic though. We're going to do a couple more here to kind of get started, and some of these are pretty consistent. I like to use these main 5 that I'm going to lay out right here in every single app. So we're going to call this one app gray. And the same thing with that, we are going to call on colors dot gray, and then oops, semicolon, and oh, I'm sorry, I'm missing a letter here. Colors dot gray. Perfect. And then right here, we're going to specify another constant variable. This one we're going to call app white. App white, and it's going to call on colors dot white. Semicolon, and yeah, so this is just going to be simply how we're going to just by name, we're going to be defining these colors as we go through. Right here is where we're going to change it up a little bit though. We're going to switch it up, and we're going to actually figure out a different way to pull a color out, a little bit more complex way. And this one we're going to call app background dark. Background dark. Oh,
Looks like we lost you for just a second, Carlos, but you are back. So go ahead and continue. Sorry
cool,
to
cool.
alarm you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about that, anybody watching. But anyways, so as we continue, we're going to make this a little bit more complex as we pull our colors. We're going to pull them off the internet and using Xcode. So this is going to be a little bit more detailed if we want a much more detailed color. But actually, for right now, I know these by heart, these first 5. So I'm going to just set it up and show you how we do that. For this one, we're not going to call on colors dot color name. We're actually going to create a color widget, and then parentheses, and then we're going to semicolon to close that up. And then we're going to start that with OX. OX is to signify that it's going to be using we're going to be using Xcode. Yeah, and that's basically just how we're going to start all our hex code colors off with is a 0x. I'm sorry, not OX, 0x. The next 2 characters are going to represent the opacity of the color. FF is going to refer to a full color, full, like without any opacity is full color. If you want to change the opacity of the color, there is an opacity chart that you can use that you can refer to. There are going to be 2 different characters. Unfortunately, I'm having a technical difficulty right now, so I'm going to have to pause real quick. I apologize for this inconvenience. 1 second.
Sorry about that, y'all. While we wait for Carlos to come back, this is a perfect opportunity for you to drop questions in the chat and let us know how things are going from your end. Dalton is also in the YouTube chat as well as Muhammad. So we would love to answer any and all questions y'all have about Flutter, AutoRoute, or anything we have discussed thus far. Carlos will be back in just a moment.
Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, so
all good, Carlos. Go ahead and continue.
Great. So yeah, as we continue, this is going to be defining our hex code, the opacity as these first 2 characters. So yeah, it's going to be 0x and then FF if you want the full color. So in order to define this one, we're going to start with 616161. Now I know that's going to make dark gray by heart. So that's simply what it's going to be like. We're going to start off with these basic 4, and then it's going to be these numbers are going to change. We're going to pull those from the internet here shortly. And the next one I can create by heart as well. App background light is what we're going to call this one. And this one's going to create another color widget. And since it's a hex code, we're going to start with 0x and then FF. And that's going to be the opacity level as well. And this one we're going to be doing F5, 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 kind of like F5 tornado. That's easy to remember. So basically right here, we're going to create our color spectrum for our black to white. And we're going to be, it's called app background light simply because I don't know if a lot of people are familiar, but app developers rarely use like a bright white when they're creating an app. It's usually like an off white. It looks a little bit better on your eyes, a little bit better on the screen than using just a harsh white. So we're going to use that for our background, or we'll decide if we're going to use that for our background, but we're most likely going to use dark, but that's what the app background light is. And then below here, like I said, these first 5 are kind of standard. I like to include them in all my apps, to be honest with you. But then these next couple colors that we're going to designate, we're going to pull those from the internet, actually. So we're going to define our constant variable. We're going to call this one app blue primary. And then for this, we're going to create a color widget. Same thing, start with 0xFF. And now we're going to go open up a Google Chrome tab, another tab, or we can use this one as well. It doesn't matter. We'll just use this one. And we're going to go to material.io. And that's actually going to take us to this page, which hosts a lot of resources that we can use for our app design. Material design, like I explained to you, is it's a way so that we can kind of all those developers can kind of unify, and everything could look a little bit more similar, and things won't be all scattered, and they look really clean and efficient. But so while we're here, while we're at material.io, I want you to click on resources, and then go scroll on down. As you can see here, there's material theme and icons and things that you can do. But what we're going to use here is the color tool. So we're going to click on the color tool. And once it opens, we're going to use the color tool. Okay. All right. So this color tool actually provides you with a cool little tool that you can use to kind of create a whole look of your app, just by experimenting with different colors, and you can kind of see how your app will look, as an example with your color themes. But we're not going to really be using too much of this function right now. We just really want our hex codes from here. So what we're going to do is we're going to find blue. We said app blue, so we're going to find a nice blue primary color. We're going to click it, and right here you can see it gives us our primary hex code right here. And it also provides us with our light version and our dark version of the color, which is super cool and super helpful to use while we're developing our apps, because sometimes that primary might not be dark enough, but we don't want to stray from another color, so we're going to use a dark version. So for now, we're gonna do this. We're gonna click on that code. We're gonna Control C. We're gonna copy that code, Control C it, come in here, make sure it's in the right place, and Control V. As you can see right here, this little square popped up, so we got our color right. Looks good. And then to make things a little bit easier, what we want to do is make sure you're on the line. We're going to do Control D, Control D. All right, and we're going to change these from app blue primary to app blue light, as well as app blue dark. And as you can see, they're all the same color right here, simply because they're using the same code because we copied and pasted it. So we're going to actually alter these. So we want our light first. So we're going to go back to here to our material.io page, and we're going to double click or select it all, and then Control C and copy that. Try not, if you triple click, let's see, if you triple click, it takes the hashtag code, the pound sign as well. So make sure you try not to bring that with you. We don't need that. We just need the numbers. So we're going to Control C, copy those, the light, and we're going to put that in the light section right after the FF. Control V. Perfect. Made the light version, and do the same thing for our dark version. So we're going to double click. We're going to copy that. Control C. We're going to come back to our Android Studio, and we're going to highlight what we want to take out, and then Control V. We're going to put that there. All right, perfect. So I think to create the yellow, let's just do all of these. We're going to Control C, bring it down, and Control V. All right, and then now we're going to change the color here. We're going to go back into blue. We're going to put yellow. right there, right where blue sits. And we're going to keep primary and keep light and dark. So we're going to do yellow, and we're going to do yellow. Okay, so as you can see, they're not yellow though, so we got to go fix that. So we're going to open up our material.io page again. We're going to go to a nice yellow. I think this looks like a good yellow right here. We want to get our yellow, our light, and our dark. So we're going to use this primary yellow. Oh, double click. We're going to Control C. Come back here. As you can already guess, we're going to take these out right after the FF and Control V. Perfect. Now we got that yellow primary in there. So now we're going to come back and we're going to get our light version as well as the dark version. So we're going to put those in there, Control V, as well as the dark version. Control C. Control V. All right. So yeah, this is it. This is going to be your color file right here. I mean, this is all we're going to build for the colors. This is all we need. If you've made it this far, you've done correctly. You did it correctly. You got no red lines. That's very important. And yeah, so this is what we're going to be referring to for our colors. Feel free after you do this to, switch it up, use whatever colors you want, totally customize it, whatever fits you best. So we're going to close. Actually, no, we're not going to close this just yet because this import line right here, we actually want. I'm going to copy that and we're going to take that into our next little step that we're going to have to do here, which is our Pubspec. We're going to start configuring our Pubspec.yaml file. If you have any questions regarding the colors file, definitely feel free to leave them in the chat or the Discord. We'd love to help you with that. But yeah, we're going to continue moving on. We're going to open up our pubspec.yaml file. All right. Okay, so this is everything that Flutter provides you with naturally. You can see a lot of green in here. A lot of that green, actually most of that green, we're not going to need. Some of it is commented stuff here. It's stuff that we can use, but it's just commented out. If you're not familiar with what commented out means, it's just we're going to unlock it basically so we can use it. We're not going to delete it because we can use that. But a lot of this stuff we really don't need, to be honest with you. It's just we're going to clean it up a little bit so we can see what the pubspec file should really look like at the end. All those are going to go. All these right here too are going to go in the beginning. Tighten all that up a little bit. These two you don't need. We're going to delete those. We're going to bring our Cupertino icons up a little bit. We're going to delete this or these couple lines. Take those out of there. Delete that one as well. And we're going to tighten that up. And these right here are also going to be deleted right here. Tighten this up. Material design set to true, so that this is important to have so we can use our material icons and stuff when we import our material package. This is what this is right here. These, okay, so right here where the assets, this is where it starts to get into stuff that we're going to use actually. So for these, we want to use this line and we want to use maybe just one of these lines, okay? So we're going to highlight those and we're going to Control/ to comment them out, okay? Control/, the same button, the /, I believe it is, with the question mark. So you're gonna comment that back out. And then this one we don't need, so Control, you can either, yeah, I like to use Control-X to just take out the whole line, to cut it. Control-Exit, Control-X, take that whole line out of there. And then these we don't need, delete those. These we don't need up until it says font. So we want to keep font. Let's not delete font. So we'll delete everything above that. And then down here under fonts, we want family, we want fonts, we want the asset. Underneath here, yeah, we could keep these two. We'll just delete everything under style. We're going to keep that. You know what? No, let's just delete style too. We're just going to keep it regular. We're not going to use italic. This asset, actually, before we move forward too, let's comment this out so we can know what we're working with. We're going to highlight those, Control/ to comment them out, okay? And then we want to get rid of one of these. We'll say this one. And then we are going to, this is what we're going to alter, this one and this one, because we're going to need both of these. This assets is going to be our image files, and the fonts are going to be our font files that we specified earlier. Another important thing we do need to go over before I feel like we should move forward is tabbing. Tabbing is important in development, especially in Pubspec YAML. But the thing is, we don't use tabs like in other programming IDs and other languages. We use the tab key to signify the next level. In the Pubspec, we don't do that. We use 2 spaces. So as you can see here, before SDK right here, we have 1, 2 spaces. Same thing with under dependencies right here. We got 1, 2 spaces. The next level is 2 spaces in. So everything is 2 spaces in between. 3 spaces are it's not gonna work. 1 space is not gonna work. So it has to be in, you know, levels of 2, and keep it at the same level, the proper level they're supposed to be at. So the reason why I wanted to say that is because when we comment out assets and fonts, because like I said, we're going to use those. When we comment them out, they're naturally not at the right tabbing that we need them to be, which is important. So as you can see here, assets, it has 1, 2, 3 spaces in front of it, as well as the image has 1, 2. Oh, that one has 2. We got to move that back either way though, because once we move this one back, we're going to come up here and move it back 1 space. Okay, so now it's only 2 away from the wall right there. So it's only 2 spaces, but now this one, the next level is 1, 2, 3 spaces away. So we want to bring that back 1 space. And the same thing goes for fonts. We want to bring that to the same level as assets. Bring this next one over 1. Bring this next one over 1. Bring this next one back 1. Now we're all lined up actually. Now the Pubspec is tabbed correctly. If you don't have it tabbed correctly, like I said, it's not going to work. So that's important. If things aren't running in your Pubspec properly, or if you receive an error, that spacing could have something to do with it. So we're going to specify here the types of assets we got. Okay. And this one we're going to take out. We're not going to be using this asset. What we are going to use, we're going to create our own folder, and it's going to be called assets. Keep it simple. And what we're going to do is put a slash after that. Now, what that means is that it's going to take everything in the assets folder. It's going to import everything in the assets folder. Now, I know you're thinking we don't have an assets folder. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's go ahead over here to our main directory, right click it. And like I said, remember main directory, not lib. Lib's for colors, and we're going to keep our routes and our routing. But our main directory is we're going to right click. We're going to create a new directory. We're going to call this directory assets. Enter. Perfect. That's where that folder is going to lie. In the later episodes, you're going to see that's where we're going to put our image files for our logo. We're definitely going to be using that later on, but not for right now. We can just keep that, keep that as is. We just wanted to create it, and I just wanted to show you where it's going to go, and this is it. And like I said, the slash is going to take everything in that folder. If you want to specify specific image files, you would put, image.png after that to specify that specific image file in that assets folder. But this is the most efficient way I feel like to do is bring those in for right now. Bring them all in. Okay, now so as we continue, we're going to go to fonts. Remember, our font family that we brought in is actually different. We're going to delete this one, and we're going to bring in Ubuntu. So we're going to type Ubuntu. That's the one we want, the family we want. Under here for assets. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our Ubuntu folder that we have. We're going to use the Ubuntu regular. That's just a simple standard one. So let's just go with Ubuntu regular. So right here, you can see it's set for Schuyler regular or Skylar. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry if I pronounce that wrong. Anybody named Schuyler or Skylar out there? My apologies. But yeah, so we're going to take that out of there, and we're going to put Ubuntu in its place. And as you can see, it says ubuntu-regular.ttf. You see right here, it says the same thing, ubuntu-regular.ttf. That's the actual font file we're going to use. But pay attention, it's sitting inside of an Ubuntu folder inside of fonts. So fonts, we're going to need to designate that folder in between as well. If you just have your font file sitting in outside of just the fonts folder, then you wouldn't need to do this, but that is important, that you got to specify exactly where it's coming from, you know, and that's the one we're going to use. Ubuntu regular, and that's mostly it. That's mostly, and I say mostly because we did the hard work here of creating our configuration file. But there's one more very important thing that we need to do, is the app doesn't yet have everything yet. The dependencies aren't really brought in. Ooh, and matter of fact, speaking of dependencies, that completely reminds me that we had passed up these dependencies, our dependencies and our dev dependencies. You know, I was trying to explain the assets and the font and the tabbing. I completely forgot some important dependencies that we need to bring in. So let's go ahead and go back. And as we clean everything up, it's much easier to navigate around here too, as you can see. So we can, oops, we can actually navigate a little bit easier. So under dependencies, not dev dependencies, under dependencies, we're going to go here and we're going to go to the next line. Cupertino icons, by the way, I believe are for iOS. That's going to be your dependencies for your iOS icons. So just keep those there. I'm going to go to the next line at the same level of Cupertino icons, which is 2 spaces away. Remember, excuse me. Right under here, we're going to specify our AutoRoute and our Flutter Toast imports or dependencies. So right here, underneath Cupertino, we're going to type lowercase auto underscore AutoRoute, okay, colon, and space. And we're going to put a caret, which is going to mean it's going to basically support everything up until this version. And the version that we're going to use is 0.6.9. Let me double check. Yep, 0.6.9. That's the version that's the most current version as of this series. So I would suggest you use that one. We're going to press enter. We're going to go down and we're going to type Flutter Toast. Okay, Flutter Toast, just like that, colon. All right, and the same thing, we're going to bring our caret to support all the other versions up until, and then for this one, we're going to be using 7.1.6 for Flutter Toast. It's the current version. So after we do that, we're going to come down to dev dependencies under SDK. And press enter. And actually, you see we're at the SDK level. We don't want that. We want to go back one level to the Flutter, or at the same level as Flutter test. So right here, what we're going to type is we're going to put in auto underscore route underscore generator. Yep. And then put the colon in there. And then same thing, we're going to use the same AutoRoute version with the caret in the front of it. We're going to use 0.6.9. But for the AutoRoute generator, we want to use that version and then do plus 3. Oops. Extra characters in there. Plus 3. So 0.69 version 0.6.9 plus 3. The next, we're going to press enter and we're just going to type in build underscore runner semicolon. And for that one, actually, we're not going to do anything. We just want to bring in the build runner because we're going to be needing that for our generator, for our AutoRoute code generator. So yeah, so if you've made it this far, then you've definitely got most of your Pubspec configuration set up. And I say most, like I said, because we got one more step we have to do, which is bring all this stuff into our app. We put the hard work of coding it in. So now what we want to do is we want to bring it all in. So we're going to use, you can either click right here. Flutter makes it very easy to point and click and do a lot of things easily. You can click pub get right here. Or if you want to get a little bit more in depth, you can open up the terminal. Okay. Make sure it's at the right project, which it should naturally open up to the right one. And say, I mean, you can do it either way. Clicking it's just as easy, or you can do it down here if you want a little bit more functionality, I guess. You can add a little bit, you can like create watches and stuff. But for now, we're just going to do Flutter pub get. Press enter. All right, now it's just going to get all these little dependencies that we put in here that weren't already in here before, and it's going to get them and incorporate them. All right. And that should be good. It looks like everything's good to go. All right, cool. Yep, everything's good to go. Okay, so once we, clicked pub get, or we typed in, Flutter pub get, let's minimize this. we're ready to move on now. Like I said, that was the final thing we needed to do with Pubspec. Otherwise, none of this stuff is going to work if you don't do the pub get. So yeah, so now that we did that, let's go ahead and we're going to close our Pubspec YAML file because we're all done with that one now. And the next step, yeah, was we're gonna go over our routes. Actually, we're gonna create some of the pages, some of the routes that we're gonna be using. So to start, let's go in our lib folder. We're gonna right-click our lib folder. We're gonna create a new package, and we're gonna call this package routes. Okay, and that's where we're gonna keep track of all our pages, our routes, and keep them organized in one place. So in routes, we're gonna right-click, and we're gonna create a new Dart file. All right, so we're gonna call this first Dart file, we'll just call it login. Okay. Same thing, right-click routes, and we're gonna create our routes right now since we're right here. We're gonna create another new Dart file, and we're gonna call this one, we'll just say home. Okay. And then we're gonna right-click routes again, and we're gonna go to Dart file, and we're gonna create this one. It's going to be called settings. Enter. And then one more route for this series. We're gonna do Dart file, new Dart file, and we're gonna call this one menu. All right. We're gonna take a quick brief pause right here for anybody that may need to catch up quickly. I'm gonna look in the chat, see if there's any comments. Oh, yeah, we had some errors with the YAML and the tabs. Thank you, Dalton, for adding that. I totally ran into some issues as well in the beginning with the tabbing. I didn't know what was wrong, but it turned out to be just a simple space that was running into there, giving me my issues. Okay, so as we continue, we got our 4 routes here ready to go. They're all empty though. They're completely empty. So the first thing we want to do, we're going to create our stateless widget, our first stateless widget. And we're going to create that in, we'll say in the home. We could create it in either one because we're actually going to copy it into all of them. So it doesn't really matter which one we do it in. So we'll just do login. Start it in login or home, either one. Doesn't make a difference. So first thing we're going to do, like I said, we want to get that import because all of these are going to be using the Flutter material import, all these files. So let's go back to our Dart. And I mean, if you want, you can write it out. You can just type import and press enter. It'll set you up and you can just type package and Flutter and material Dart and press enter again and get that easily. Or you can go into colors 1 and just highlight, copy that, bring it over here, and then bring it in your file. You see? That's simple. Just copy and paste. So for login, we'll just pretend we pasted it there. And we're going to go down and we're going to create our class file for our login. Then we want to create these. The reason why I want to create these widgets, these stateless widgets first, is so we can move forward into routing. And if we move forward into routing without having these pages specified and set up, we're going to have errors going along the way as far as trying to import those into our routing. So let's just build just these simple class files just to create some structure into these files so that we can use them in our routing, which is kind of coming up next. So first we're going to create a class file. And we're going to call this class file, since it's login.dart that I'm in, we're going to do capital L. Now, this is like Java syntax. Your classes are going to start with capital letters. Remember that, because there's going to be subtle differences as far as naming our routes and class names. The class names are going to be capitalized. The named routes are going to start with a lowercase letter. So let's start with login page. We're going to call this class login page. And then what we're going to do is we're going to extend capital S stateless, and I'm just going to press enter because it's right there, stateless widget. Okay, so we're going to create an extend stateless widget, and then we're going to have our braces, our brackets. Okay, we're going to come in here, and as you can see already, we have an error. That red line is definitely going to let you know that something's not right. So if you, Android Studio has tons of little features out there that help make you identify your error as well as come up with solutions to solve your error. So we're going to hover over it with the mouse, and what we're going to do is you can either click that little light bulb, excuse me, or you can press Alt Enter. And these are just it's like I said, simple shortcuts. Control C for copy, Control V for paste, Control D is to copy the whole line, bring it down, and then the next one we're going to bring in is Alt Enter. Alt Enter is going to be how you come up with a quick solution that Android Studio may provide for you. So as you can see, Alt Enter shows us it's saying create one missing overrides. So it's already letting us know that we need an overridden method in here. And if you don't know what an overridden method means, just a quick Google search would get you caught up on that. We're not going to go into that. It's simply just a method that we need to write right now to make sure our class works. So I can click this right here, and it's going to automatically create it like that. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to walk through it first. So we're going to delete that as well, or delete that too. And then we're going to tab in, create the next level. What we're going to do is first annotate that it's an override. Okay. I don't know why that doesn't do that. Let me see. Is it doing it when we do that? Yeah. Okay, I guess it just doesn't turn yellow until I put the method in there. Okay, so we're going to annotate it, override, and press enter. And then on this next line, we're going to capital W is the data type of a widget. So we're going to do type widget. And then this is going to be our build method. Okay. Oh, geez. All right. This is our build method. We're going to put some parameters in here. The parameters are going to be build context type, capital B, build context, and then we're going to call that one just context. And then we're going to come over here and put our braces. All right, so the build method is actually showing us something too that we need to do. We need to actually include the return statement, I believe. Yep, that's what it says right there. If you could see it towards where it says this function has a return type of widget, but doesn't end with a return statement. So it's letting you know that we need to put that return statement in there to make everything good. We're going to do our return, and for our login page, we're going to return a scaffold. Okay, and then we're going to do 2 parentheses with the semicolon. All right, you see now, no red, no errors, no underlines. Our annotation is yellow. Everything is good to go. Our method's highlighted. Everything's good. It looks good. Now we're able to take this little template, because we're going to be doing this simple build method and all the other ones as well. The build method is important in Flutter. Any change that you make in the app is not going to happen until the build method is rerun. So every time you run the build, it's going to re-render everything. So the build is fundamental to our production. So we're going to take everything here though, from the bottom brace all the way up to the import, everything. We're going to Control C that, and we're going to bring that into our other things. We're going to Control V to our other files, our other Dart files. Control V, and you can see it still says login page here, even though we're in the home.dart file. These are just some things we're going to come back and change. But to save time, we're going to Control V, and then Control V. All right. These shortcuts are heaven sent, let me tell you. If you get used to doing them and you understand when to use them, definitely good to know. So we're going to go in here and we're going to start with our home. We're going to alter this one to, instead of login page, we're going to capital H, home page. Simple as that. That's simple. We're going to keep a scaffold the same, but we're going to move on to our settings. We're going to change this one to, can anyone guess what this is going to be? Settings. Yep. And then menu is the last one we're going to change with a capital M, menu page. Okay, so we're all set up right here. We have what we need to go, what we need to do to set up our routing now. So we can actually close these little Dart files. They're going to be sitting right here if you need them in our routes folder. If you ever need to open them back up, you need to do something, you just click on it and they're there. So they're not going away when you click X. They're just getting off of here so you're not too confused, but they're right here when you need them. We're going to take home, login, and we're going to just back all that back up. We really don't even need the colors right now, actually, either. So we can close that out completely. All right, so far, let's do a quick little recap. We went over the fonts, we went over colors, we set up some routes, some pages that we're going to be able to use, and yeah, now we're getting ready to set up the routing functions, the autocode generator, and all that fun stuff. So yeah, let's go into that. So the first thing we're going to do is in our lib folder. Well, first, before I move forward, I'm going to double check here in the chat. I want to make sure that we don't have anything that we move forward unanswered or anything in particular. All right, looks good, looks good. All right, so for the first step in our routing function, we're going to right click our lib folder. We're going to create a new package. We're going to call this package, oops, I don't know what's going on with my typing right now, routing. Okay, press enter. So we have a package named routes that holds our routes, and we have a package named routing, and this one is, you guys are going to hold our routing Dart file. So in our routing directory, we're going to right click, we're going to go to new, we're going to go to new Dart file, and in here, we're going to call this one, I've seen this used other places, I like it, we're going to use modular underscore router. And the reason I'm actually calling it this is because I ran into an issue in the beginning of developing with Flutter. I would just call this file router, just one word router, and it was giving me a ton of issues. And you can probably call this whatever you want. To be honest with you, you can call this whatever you want. But just call it something that tends is that that it has to do with your routing. But what I'm trying to say is, if you call it router, you're going to run into issues and conflictions with the standard Flutter router going on, the Flutter router file. So I would suggest don't use router, use something else. Customize it a little bit. For this one, we're going to call it modular router. Press enter, and right here is what we're going to specify our code for our routing. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, we don't want to import material. We don't need, this is going to deal with just routing, so we're not going to be using material icons and stuff. We don't want to import the material, but we do want to import our annotations. That's the one import we do need. So we're going to type import and then press enter, get that quick, the quick help or whatever. We're going to import. This one, we're going to import packages, okay? Oops, package, colon, and then we're going to do Flutter. Actually, no, this isn't going to be Flutter. This is going to be AutoRoute, actually. Auto underscore route. And we're going to slash. And then you can see it down here, actually, too. But we're going to just type it just to do it. Auto underscore route underscore annotations dot dart. All right. And once we got that set up, as you can see, it turned gray. What the gray means is it means that it's just simply an unused thing. Whenever something in Android Studio is not used yet, it's going to turn gray to let you know that you haven't used it. Just to let you know, maybe you have a variable you haven't used that you wanted to use, to let you know that you didn't use it. So after we import the annotations, we're going to come down here. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with the @ symbol and annotate material auto. Material auto router. All right, and then we're going to open and close parentheses. And before we go into our material auto router annotation and specify our routes, we're just going to press enter after these parentheses and do our quick little class, because this is all we're going to have to do under here. Actually, we're just going to have to specify class, and we're going to call it the same as what we called our Dart file, modular router. The only difference is we're going to start it with a $sign. Okay, that's just to signify the code generator, what we're going to do here. So we're going to $, capital M, modular router. Okay, just like that. And then after that, we are going to close that with the braces. Open and close braces, or brackets. I always get confused with braces and brackets, I swear. But yeah, we're going to call them brackets this time. And we're going to open and close them. And see this line, class, modular router, brackets. That's all you need for that. We don't need to go any further into creating this class file. But we are going to need to come back up to the annotations here. Press enter in the parentheses. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to create our route. So we're going to bring up this attribute is routes, the colon. And then what I like to do whenever I do attributes, because in Flutter, it's very important. I'm going to go into right now why commas are important. Commas are really important as far as formatting goes. So when I like to create a property or an attribute like this, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to come to the next level. It's going to be this or your attribute followed by a colon. And I like to space and comma. Okay, just so I don't forget that comma, because that comma is what's going to help you when you press save. It's going to automatically format all your Flutter code in the proper format that it's, the the way that it's supposed to look. I mean, it can look in other ways, don't get me wrong, but if you want to keep it a uniform look that the Flutter developers intended it to look, use the commas before your parentheses. That's totally gonna, that's what the comma, the parentheses is what lets the Flutter system know, you know, reformat this part right here. But so like I said, I like to, you know, specify the attribute and then follow it with a comma and then come back and then write my attribute in there. So first, what we're going to do for routes, we're going to have a list of routes. And to designate or to specify a list, we're going to have our arrows, open and close arrows. Inside of it, capital A, auto route. Okay. And then we're going to go, yeah, perfect. And then after this, you're going to have a bracket. A bracket, not a brace, or oh, I'm sorry, that is a brace. We're gonna have a brace, not a bracket. And the braces, you know, this double arrow with the, you know, data type in here, followed by these braces, that's gonna let us know it's gonna be a list. So in the future, when we create, you know, pages with multiple children in our app, that means multiple widgets inside of the widget. We're gonna be using lists like this. It's gonna be this same format, you know, the double arrow with the braces and brackets. Jesus, our braces. Oh my God, I don't know. I should put that in a comment down below. These are braces, not brackets. But yeah, so we're gonna specify it in a list, and to start it out, we're gonna do an annotation called material route right here. We want a material route, and then parentheses and comma. Okay. And then what we want to do is we're going to have, since we have 4 routes right here, home, login, menu, and settings, we have 4. So we know we're going to be using 4 routes right now. So let's just do that right now. We're going to take that, get to that, get on that line, and then we're going to Control D, Control D, Control D. It's going to make 4 of them for us, right? They're ready to go. And then now all we need to do is just go in and specify our pages in particular. So for the first one, let's go up here. And what we want to do is we want to type page. This is going to specify our first page. The first page is going to be called login page, like we call the class name, capital L. Let me go back. So I don't want to auto import that. So I want to show you. First thing we do is type login page. Interesting. It didn't give me an error. Okay. Anyways, login page. And then we're going to, after this one, we're going to type comma, and we're going to put initial. Okay. And then put a colon, and after initial, we're going to put the Boolean value of true. This is the only one that we set the initial to, simply because when we open our app, our login page is going to be the initial page that opens up. When we first open the app, that's going to be the first thing that pops up. So we designate that as our initial page. All the other ones, we don't have to do that. This one, we do. And you'll see why the format of the initial page, it'll just be a / as the name. Don't let me confuse you. I'm sorry, I'm just talking about it, but let me keep going, and you're going to see what I mean here in a second. So we're going to go to this next route. Same thing. We're going to type page, colon, and that next route, we're going to do capital H, home, page. I'm not going to press enter because that auto imported it. And I mean, when you're developing, if you press enter right now, it's going to auto bring in the import automatically. But for example purposes, I'm going to press escape. And then comma, and then we are going to, oh, actually, I'm sorry, we don't need no initial value after that. So then it didn't seem to give me an error though. It's kind of weird. Okay. Anyways, we'll go into this next one, and for this one, we're going to do the same thing: page, colon, and then we are going to use the menu page. We'll do menu page. You can do settings page, menu page first. It doesn't matter, but we're going to do menus page here first, and that's that. Same thing here: page, colon, and then we'll do settings page. All right. As you can see, we're having an issue actually. That's what's going on here. Something isn't specified properly, which is why, okay, now I got it. These actually should not be annotations. Sorry, take that back. As you can see, they're turning yellow as I'm deleting them, which means I'm doing something right now. But now that I'm doing something right, now something wrong is happening, as you can see, which is kind of what I wanted to happen, to be honest with you. So these red lines, if you remember, from the a couple minutes ago, signify an error. It means we need to do something here. So we're going to hover over it. We're going to Alt Enter, and then right there, import library package Flutter series, and it's going to import the login.dart file that we created over here. That's what we need. We wanted to import it in here so we can use it, because this is separate. This modular router.dart file is actually is separated from these, so it doesn't know to use these just yet. So we need to import those. So we're going to import that login.dart. See up here, it brought it in. Same thing here. Go down there, Alt Enter, press Enter to import it. Okay. Same thing here. For here, let's use the little light bulb, and then we'll click Import Library. Okay. And then for this last one, same thing. Alt Enter. We're going to click to import that in. Okay, so now, as you see, everything is cleaned up. There's no red in here. Looks great. And I do want to add something here, though, because it's actually very important to this. We're going to commenting in. I'm going to leave this little comment right here just so you can read what we're going to do. So we're going to put this command in to run the auto generator. So we're going to do flutter pub run build underscore runner. Now we're going to do watch double dash, delete dash conflicting dash outputs. Okay, so this command right here is what we're going to run in our terminal down here when we're ready. And what this is going to do is it's going to auto code all the stuff that we need, just simply built off of what we provided here. And this is, like I said, AutoRoute is an amazing feature. You kind of just type minimal, and then you just you get all this amazing code generated for you automatically. And this is going to be the code that does it. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all of this. We're going to copy that without the quotation or the flashes. I just did that to comment it out, because if I didn't have the slashes, it would recognize this as an actual line of code. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to cause any errors in our app, our program right now. So we want to comment it out so that it doesn't recognize that as anything. It's just so we can see. But we do need it though, so we can copy it, or well, you can type it and copy it, or you can type it directly into terminal. It's up to you. I just want to have it here so you can see it, so you can copy it, write it down, whatever you need to do. This is important. So we're going to copy, Control-C that, go into our terminal. Okay. And in our terminal, make sure we're in it. We're going to Control-V, double check, make sure our command's right. Flutter pub build runner watch for delete conflicting outputs. And what that means is basically what I'm going to explain is when we auto generate the code, this little command, watch delete conflicting output, is going to make sure that there's not already a copy created in our auto generated code. So this is going to, if you make any changes, this is going to help you by shying away from creating duplicates of stuff you already have generated already. So that helps, but definitely keep that in. I would suggest keep that in there in your command. So when we have that down in there, we're going to press enter. All right, now this might take a second depending on your computer. Not gonna lie, it took my first time. I mean, not my first time, but one of the first few times I did it, I remember it taking like 5 minutes to run. So as you can see, it's blinking. Don't stress if nothing is happening. It's just blinking. If you press enter and you enter the command right, just wait. You're gonna see some information here pop up in a second. Just give it a second. It's trying to get ready to generate all that code for you. And yeah, like I said, I ran into issues in the beginning where I didn't have the delete conflicting outputs, and it was just causing errors. It wouldn't generate the code. Yeah, so if everything runs smoothly though, right here, you're gonna see it says succeeded or successful at the end. That's how you know everything went smoothly and you have what you need. If not, this is gonna be where you have to pause and figure out, what's going on here, what the problem is. Maybe you might be able to reach out, or you can find it yourself. But as you see, there's some information popping up here as we've been talking. It's just going over the information it's creating, it's generating. This is all good stuff right here. This is showing you something's happening. This is action happening. Okay, so 8 out of 9 actions completed. That's letting you know it's almost done creating what you need it to. So just let it go for a little bit longer. And this is the point I said sometimes it might take a little longer. Perfect. Just got done as I got through saying that. So right here, this last line, you can see it says succeeded after 23.5 seconds with 1 outputs, 9 actions. So that's what we want to see. We want to see succeeded. We don't want to see an error, weren't able to do this or that. We want to see succeeded. And when we do that, you might go over here, or you want to go over here. Actually, let's close that. And when you might not see the router.gr.dart or the modular router.gr.dart file there initially, but as you can see, when I closed the terminal, it popped up automatically. Now I noticed that when I run the auto generator and I generate the code, once it's succeeded, it doesn't automatically show up right here. So what I do is I just click anything, just click a file and open it, and when it senses the activity, that'll magically just appear. And so like I said, if you don't see it, just click around once and it'll pop up. It should pop up automatically. I don't know if that's going to work the same way on your system as it does, like wait for me to click something, but if it does, that might be what's going on. So just go ahead and wait until you see this file that gets created underneath your modular router Dart file, the automatically created one, and let's open it up so we can see what's inside of it. Okay, so as you can see, it's generated code. At the top, it says, do not modify by hand. All this stuff is automatically generated for us right here by using our this file right here, our modular router file. So if you want to make changes in here, this is where you make the changes at. And then you're going to need to run this as well, run this again to create this again, okay? This routing is going to handle passing information from one route to another. It's going to handle navigation. It makes otherwise you're going to be doing all this by hand every time. Now we have everything ready to go, and as you can see, we have our names. These are going to be the names that we refer to when we call in our name route. So now when we say, instead of having to build a whole new method in each page in each route to point to our next route, we don't have to create a whole method. We just simply we're going to write a method and just simply name it. We're going to say navigate to homepage, and it's going to take us there. Navigate to menu page, it's going to take us there. This also has features to pass information from one route to another, like strings, words, numbers, and stuff that you may need. We're not going to go into that. That's another thing that you may want to look into. But for now, we're just going to go over the navigation aspect of the router, the auto route. And
so Carlos,
yes.
before we jump into that, there was a question from Coach about AutoRoute. So Coach asks, AutoRoute annotations.dart is legacy code. Is there an update for null safe ID environment? Does AutoRoute provide benefit beyond setting up named routes page? Would you be able to help Coach with this question?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the answer to that. I see that you specified it is legacy code, which means that it might be a little bit outdated or deprecated. This is the one that I decided to use, I don't know of any other import that we would use. I'm sure a quick search would be able to find that. For the null safe ID environment, I do see that Flutter 2, the new Flutter version, I think, I know Flutter 1 does have null safety as well. I don't know if that necessarily applies to what we're talking about here. Benefit beyond setting up. Yeah, okay, so the benefit, I wanted to go to too, like I said, the other benefit of just simply having name routes would be to make passing the information easier, passing arguments from one route to another easier, as well as, the boilerplate issues, like we said, not having multiple methods in a bunch of different places. You can kind of just keep them in the auto route feature. But what was that, Danny?
And I was going to say here for you, Coach, as well, is, I might not be able to find the answer for you right now before we end, but I'll do this. I'll go find the answer for you before our next episode. So join us next time, and we'll make sure to cover it in depth for you. All right. But with that, Carlos, go ahead and continue.
Great. And thank you, Coach. I appreciate that question. That definitely brings to light some gaps, some knowledge gaps. Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, as we continue, I mean, we're actually almost done here, to be honest with you. We generated our code, we created the colors, we specified the fonts that we're going to be using, and we created the routes that we're going to be navigating to and from. These are the name routes, like we had mentioned, like Coach had mentioned too. The named routes are going to make our navigation easier to go from page to page. And this is the syntax we're going to use. It's similar to the class names, but it's just going to start with a lowercase letter. And you're going to see that, much more when we get into the coding aspect of things. But yeah, so I think that actually should conclude everything for today. Yeah, we generated the code, and I explained the auto-generated code for you. And yeah, that should wrap everything up for today. I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. Definitely keep coming back every Saturday. We're gonna keep going, push all through 5 episodes, and get this app built. Because if you happen to miss one, I mean, you can definitely watch it on your own leisure time. But I would suggest coming to the live event, because if you have any questions, you can actually present them and maybe get them answered in due time. Rather than watching the YouTube show on your own time, and then not being able to have that resource available, which you can still ask them in a Discord, because the Discord's always open, so we can always answer those questions. But all I'm saying is just definitely hope to see y'all next time. This was fun. This was a great experience. I can't wait to really start building this thing out and getting past this configuration, but it's very important we do this. And yeah, I just want to say thank you all for showing up. If you want to say farewell, Danny, Mohammed, I appreciate everybody's help, especially you two for helping make this possible. Yeah, if you want to say bye.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you all so much for sticking with us through this episode 1 for building your first Flutter application. One of the things I want to encourage y'all to do right now is like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and make sure to join us on Discord. We will be answering your questions as we go. So make sure to continue to engage with this content, and we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, I also just want to retouch back with Carlos on the Discord server. So take the opportunity to ask your questions, and we'll be active throughout the next week. And also, Carlos mentioned in the beginning of the series about community, and that's one of the things we want to accomplish, is build a community of students supporting one another who are also working with Flutter. So if you think you can answer a question, or if you think you can help be a mentor for some of the other students here in the series, please send us a DM in our Discord, and we would love to chat with you and see how you can best fit, and we can leverage you for our future events. See everyone in the next episode.
Yeah, and we got some comments coming in from y'all who stuck with us through the end. So thank y'all so much. Just want to throw some up on screen. We'll see you in the next one.
Thank you all, and I want to say one final goodbye. Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Mohammed, for that farewell, and definitely reach out to us on Discord, like Mohammed said. We're here, we're available, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Привет.
Hello.
Servus.
Marhaba.
Hola. Hello.
I'm inspired that there's so many people working to accomplish the same goal of creating a connected future. By having students lead clubs on campus directly supported by Google developers, that's the best way to reach out to students.
It's really inspirational always to hear about members of the community who echo your values and echo your beliefs.
I've been listening more than I've been speaking, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I'm just getting all these ideas.
Google, it needs to reach a wider audience and be more relatable as a company, and I think Google is one of the brands that is very good at doing that.